figure of more than 172,000 alone spotlights the grim reality that murderers and rapists are not being prosecuted at the moment. The South African Police Service's forensic laboratories did not even function during January and February of this year. One of the prime duties of any government is to protect its people. This state of affairs is a clear betrayal of the people of our country and cannot allow to go on further. It is clear that the wrong people are managing this process, but it's also clear that the buck stops at the top. The Minister of Police must account for this and explain to the nation why he should still be tolerated in this position longer. Thank you.
You are exceeding your time as well by 3 seconds. EFF.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. The blame for South Africa not having a vaccine to prevent being infected with the SARS-CoV-2 virus should be placed at the feet of the Department of Science and Innovation. The role of science and innovation, in particular research and development, is the industrialization and the advancement of society. Highly industrialized countries have used science and technology to drive industry in addressing their country's challenges. In his response to the Finance Minister's budget speech, the Deputy President of the EFF mentioned the role of industry and innovation in the growth of the South Korean economy. I think it would be useful for us all to start looking east, far east. The South Korean government places emphasis on funding, reform, and societal status in science and technology as a fundamental part of socio-economic development of the country, as well as for national prestige. South Korea has made rapid advancement in areas such as education, infrastructure, high-tech manufacturing, and patents, and is now, by some measure, a world leader. In South Africa, there's been a failure by the ANC to reconfigure research institutions post-1994. These institutions operate in silos and play no role in the reduction of unemployment and inequality. But also, science and technology is deemed as elitist, with very little accountability to the ruling party. Science and innovation isn't a luxury, it's a necessity. That is why more than 4% of South Korea's GDP goes into research and development. Science, government, and innovation isn't a luxury, it's a necessity. That is why more than 4% of South Korea's GDP goes into research and development.
On Thursday,
Science, government,
March 2021, that's this Friday, South Africa marked 1 year since the first case of COVID-19 was detected in the country. On this day last year, 2020, a 38-year-old male was traveling from Italy with his wife and was part of a group of 10 who contracted the first case of COVID-19. This pandemic has since affected every sphere of human life, but it has also been countered with great resolve and determination by the government and South African citizens who have made personal sacrifices to contain it. Throughout the different alert levels, the citizens have adhered to different regulations and thus made their civic contributions towards the containment of this pandemic. The hard lockdown imposed on the March 26 last year was a painful moment for the country, but it had to be done to counter the spreading of the disease. The African National Congress pays tribute to more than 50,000 people who have lost their lives to this pandemic. The deadliest days so far came in January 2021 during the second wave of this infection. We are proud of the government initiative of getting the vaccine and how they have managed to curb the spread of the disease. The amount of research that was done in such a short period is commendable. We would like to convey our deepest condolences to all those who have lost their loved ones. Lastly, we want to thank the healthcare workers for the work that they've done looking after those who suffered from COVID-19, in the process risking their lives. We call upon South Africans to continue adhering to the rules.
Thank you very much, Honorable Member. IFP.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. At the official opening of the National House of Traditional Leaders on 4th of March 2021, President Cyril Ramaphosa recognized that partnership between the government, traditional leaders, private sector, and civil society is critical in the fight against the COVID-19 pandemic. Traditional leaders play an immense role in rural communities and have been proactive in assisting in the fight against the COVID-19 by delivering food parcels and hand sanitizers into villages. The decision to suspend the initiation practices during the peak of the pandemic was also pragmatic. In my statement today, I wish to emphasize the need for government to reach out to traditional leaders in this difficult time and to include them and their views in finding solutions. We cannot simply pay lip service to these structures. It is crucial that traditional leaders are consulted by local government and their views should be included in the plans to reach and educate communities in these difficult times. Traditional leaders are in a unique position to ensure access to rural villages and are acutely aware of the needs and resource constraints of these villages. Let us ensure proper cooperation with the traditional leaders to ensure our efforts in combating this monstrous pandemic reaches these vulnerable communities. I thank you.
Thank you, FF Plus. But before you start, let's request whips to please watch your members and do your coaching for appearance. We want to see your entire face. We want to see your entire face so that it's properly done. We know there are difficulties of people who have problems. Please, honorable members, we've now had a long time to practice, okay? So let's clear it up. I'm sure members will be able to do that. ANC? FF Plus. Okay.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. South Africans have more trust in the private sector than in the public sector. With the cost of state capture hovering at around 1.8 trillion rand during the term of the fifth Parliament, poor service delivery, corruption, taxpayers and consumers were forced to intervene where the government has failed. Private education, healthcare, safety, travel, alternative lighting and energy were created with after-tax money. South Africans became privatized citizens. Communities should be refunded where government failed. Price tag of a culture of imperviousness, blame shifting, and a culture of entitlement is devastating. The tangible move has to be made to change the increasingly dangerous conditions which so threaten a constitutional crisis. South Africa is desperately in need of a new deal, the CODESA 3, with this new dispensation, especially at local government level. Thank you, Deputy Speaker.
Thank you, ANC.
District 6.
The African National
Congress, Deputy Speaker, commends the progress on the long-awaited return of District 6 claimants to the area. Their return comes 55 years later after being forcibly removed by apartheid government under the Group's Areas Act when the area was declared a whites-only area. The ANC-led government remains committed to addressing the injustices and rectifying the wrongs of the past, including land dispossession. In 2019, the Department of Agriculture, Land Reform and Rural Development, working together with various stakeholders, committed to a detailed plan to speed up the process and have those claimants return home by 2023. At the moment, a new housing development has sprung up in the area. The District 6 site is now full of activity and swarming with construction workers. The ANC is greatly encouraged to hear that 108 claimants will eventually move into the area as early as April 2021. They are part of the first group of 975 claimants who applied for restitution in the late 1990s. We acknowledge the delays and frustrating process and legal battles in this project. We commit that nobody will be allowed to take away what rightfully belongs to the people. Never again shall there be places that are reserved for certain people in this country. We commend the people of District 6 for standing together and fighting for their rights until the end. I thank you.
Thank you. DA.
Thanks, Deputy Speaker. The Democratic Alliance calls for the urgent lifting of Alert Level 1 lockdown regulations that make it close to impossible for property owners to obtain lawful eviction orders. While restrictions on free movement have long been lifted, the corresponding rights of property owners have not been restored. To protect their land and buildings against illegal occupation, property owners have to overcome extraordinary legal hurdles, creating an open season for land grabs. Regulation 73 empowers a court to stay all eviction proceedings for the duration of the national state of disaster, which at present is an indefinite period. Most concerning are the factors that a court has to take into consideration in deciding whether or not to stay eviction proceedings. This includes the duty on parties applying for an eviction to take reasonable steps to provide alternative accommodation for evicted persons in terms of Regulation 73. By this sleight of hand, government has effectively transferred its own constitutional duty onto ordinary property owners without offering any additional support. As the Ivan Klutter matter has shown, the ANC is clearly not opposed to evictions in principle, even unfair ones, provided, of course, the property owner is the state. But we cannot have one set of rules for the state and another set of rules for ordinary property owners. And so we call on the COGTA Minister to amend lockdown regulation.
Thank you, Honorable Member. Your
as soon
time
as
has
possible.
expired. UDM.
Can you hear me, Deputy Speaker?
Yes, go ahead.
What's happening to my phone now?
Go ahead.
Oh, yeah, thank you very much. The unavailability of NSFAS funding and the inability of students to raise registration fees has created all manner of challenges at higher education institutions and has pitted the students against the management of the education institutions around the country. Ezile ntombini nobuhle dalane sinothando deyi masicinge mantanga onesimo mbuye and sibulele Mwemla from King Sabata Dalindjebo TVET College are no exception. In 2020 August, they embarked on a strike protesting against their inability to access NSFAS funding. Instead of the management of the university showing sensitivity to their concerns and their plight, they decided to use suppression tactics. They decided to serve the students with court orders as a way to intimidate and shut their voices. The UDM intervened and communicated with the school's management, asking them to deal with the matter more professionally. Unfortunately, all our attempts fell on deaf ears. We took it upon ourselves, realizing this, we took it upon ourselves to help the students by appointing a team of lawyers to represent the students in an appeal process, which we later won. However, as things stand currently, the management of the institution continues to violate their rights by making sure that time has expired.
Yes. That's a
Besakhangelana nje kuqala kangundifumane kuqala 20 seconds iyahamba speaker masibuyise ufroluk.
It's out of order. Please.
Grant me atonement, sir.
ANC.
The African National Congress welcomes the recent consent agreement signed by the Competition Commission with several schools and major manufacturers to reduce school uniform prices for some parents. A memorandum of understanding regarding school uniform prices and procurement in South Africa was signed after the Commission had successfully prosecuted and entered into consent agreement with 4 schools and 2 of the country's largest manufacturers. The settlements required school uniform suppliers to remove exclusive agreements with schools and to introduce more generic uniform options. The Commission had found that exclusive arrangements between schools and uniform suppliers were prevalent across the country, and these made uniforms unnecessarily expensive and increasingly unaffordable for many South Africans. The 3 key principles of school uniform policy in the MOU were to educate and raise awareness on anti-competitive procurement or sourcing practices, addressing anti-competitive procurement processes, and monitoring of compliance, which focuses on efforts to encourage all member schools to make formal commitments through their school policies to practice pro-competitive procurement. I thank you.
Thank you. Good.
Deputy Speaker, on behalf of Good, I would like to welcome the 270 volunteers in the Western Cape who were recently trained to protect infrastructure at the Passenger Rail Agency of South Africa. With funding of more than 100 million, the People's Responsibility to Protect project was launched by the Transport Minister. That we hope that the additional protection volunteers will work hand in hand with police officers, railway police, NGOs, and all other stakeholders who are trying to make a difference in the safety of commuters and our infrastructure. We all must be vigilant around crime around our train stations, its effects on, on those using trains as a public means of transport. Further, that we hope that the infrastructure loss due to theft and vandalism will subside in order to curb unnecessary expenditure that could be spent on infrastructure development. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The Chief Whip of the Majority Party, you asked earlier, where's the new member of the DA? He is sitting next to his Chief Whip for protection. ANC.
The ANC, the African National Congress moves without notice that this House knows that in recognition of the struggle stalwart Mama Charlotte Mateke, individual and collective contribution to freedom and democracy in South Africa. A government has declared 2021 the year of Charlotte Mateke to mark 150th anniversary of her birthday. Recognizes Mama Mateke.
Honorable, we are not moving a notice yet. That's not, you are reading a notice. We are not yet there. We are still doing statements. For the ANC who needs to do a statement, please go ahead.
Thank you very much, Deputy Speaker.
Apologies, honorable members, it happens.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks, Honorable Deputy Speaker. The African National Congress calls for further engagement between the city of Cape Town and the residents of Woodstock to find a better solution rather than eviction of residents from the Woodstock Hospital, which has been under occupation by housing activists. Recently, the city of Cape Town has deployed law enforcement agencies to intimidate Woodstock Hospital occupants. Although they are still waiting for the court judgment after they have approached the courts to assist in removing the people from the area. The ANC believes that removing the occupants would violate the national state of disaster regulations. In an eviction process, there are some steps that need to be followed before resorting to evictions. According to the leaders in the area, there had been no public participation process regarding the use of Woodstock Hospital as a site for redevelopment and housing allocation, which was part of the process. The ANC calls upon the city of Cape Town to engage the community and land activists that are involved to offer better solutions than forcefully evicting them.
Thank you, ma'am. DA?
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. The Ramaphosa administration is unfriendly towards business, as the Zuma administration was, if not more. The government continuously adopts regulations that burden entrepreneurs. Many business owners opt to go underground to avoid the red tape. In most cases, this leads them to join the ranks of the unemployed. Small businesses in South Africa are experiencing a war between themselves and the government, with many issues affecting them, including but not limited to the access to rural business becoming ever more impossible due to a systematic lack of road maintenance. Companies and cooperatives being unable to expand because of the unreliable supplies of electricity. ANC-run local governments are not fulfilling their mandates. Burdensome labor laws and red tape makes it nearly impossible for small business to contribute to meaningful and sustainable job creation. The Ease of Doing Business Private Members Bill tabled by the DA will help the government to identify, measure the impact thereof, and rectify regulatory burdens and government failures in the business environment. President Ramaphosa has asked the nation to work together to kickstart the economy. The Ease of Doing Bill is the DA's commitment to do this for the sake of all South Africans. Thank you, Chair.
Taking literally 16 seconds. Let me, no, don't say, Chairperson. Your time is determined by your whips, and I keep to it. You can't say, Chairperson. Members, please, don't laugh at a member when they make a mistake. Really, even a four-legged animal stumbles. Who are you with only two? So please don't do that. Honorable members, there are things about which you must protest, not those that are determined by yourselves or your representative. So I'm completely determined. I must find a machine that stops this machine so that I don't talk to save my airtime. EFF. EFF.
Chair, supposed to be Honorable Madlingozi. Let me check him. Or is there?
There's a member in the house. Go ahead, Honorable Member.
Artists have resorted to self-human action.
Members, give her Honorable Member time. You are out. Your noise is too much now.
Artists have to resort to subhuman actions, chaining themselves to metal poles inside the offices of South African Music Rights Organization, SAMRO, protesting against corruption that is rampant in SAMRO and whose primary role is to protect musicians' intellectual property and collecting royalties on their behalf. The majority of its members are Black people. SAMRO is not paying royalties to its members openly and fairly. It had to take a sit-in protest for SAMRO to pay artists. After 2 years of non-payment, SAMRO gambled with artists' royalties and lost 48 million rands. They are a law unto themselves. There is no consequent management in SAMRO. The Department of Arts and Culture is mum about what is going on with artist money. The Minister of Arts and Culture is failing dismally to respond to artist issues. The EFF calls for a regulatory body to manage the entire arts and culture sector, a body that will replace these numerous senseless organizations that are corrupt and having management that is entertaining themselves with artist royalties. National Arts Council, NAC, has also failed with their responsibility entrusted to it through the Presidential Employment Stimulus Program, PESP, to roll out relief funds to artists and spokespersons. Artists had to resort to sit in at the offices of NAC. There are a series of protests being planned by artists as artists are finding it hard to live. Their sector is being controlled by individuals who are helping themselves when money is earmarked for artist relief. They cannot work because of the restrictions under the COVID-19 pandemic.
Yeah, Honorable Member, your time is expired. ANC.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. We've all heard first-hand stories of trials and tribulations experienced by those who queue for their grants, long queues, overcrowding, and excessive waiting for the 350 social distress grant, which presented challenges for the beneficiaries. The recent announcement by the Post Office that it has introduced a new system that will see specific beneficiaries collect their grants on designated days, depending on the last 3 digits of their ID numbers, is welcomed. This system has been introduced in the Free State, Northwest, Mpumalanga, and Limpopo. The first week of the month is reserved for paying the elderly, disabled, and child support grants. The Post Office has introduced separate queues at its branches to reduce waiting time and to ensure physical distancing. Another queue is reserved for the beneficiaries of the 350 grant, and there will be queue workers to check ID numbers to ensure that the system is implemented.
The president extended the 350 grant by further 3 months. This has proven to be an effective and efficient short-term measure to reduce the immediate impact on the livelihoods of poor South Africans. We hope that the post office in the remaining provinces will also implement the new system. I thank you.
Thank you. Cope? Thank you, Deputy Speaker, Honorable. 2 weeks ago, this House spent a very long time debating how best the lives of millions of South Africans can be saved from death due to COVID attacks. Government claimed, as it usually does, the victory that it had accessed vaccines, which would protect and save lives. Although one pointed out that those vaccines were still mere tests and not scientifically authenticated, just like AstraZeneca. Government said that was a victory and sang a victory song. Today, many in the government, doctors and scientific team have indicated that it is only 100%, so that it's not even 100%, but only 20% proven to be safe. Yesterday, only 600 people died and many more hundreds tested positive, and there is nothing altogether that this government is able to do. It's further reported that doctors' wives and relatives are given priority advantages when it comes to both treatment care in hospital. The question therefore to all members is, where is the truth? Thank you. If you didn't know, we have ANC. No, you're out of order in the first place. That's not allowed, honorable members. Even if you think so, you know you must say it with a substantive thing here in the House. Generally, that's the rule, if you last read it. Please, man, just take it seriously. Doesn't mean we must speak casually in the House here, as if there are no rules. ANC?
Thank you very much, Deputy Speaker. The African National Congress notes with deep sadness the passing of seasoned journalist Karima Brown on the 4th of March 2021 from COVID-related complications. She was a highly regarded journalist with a lengthy list of credentials, including being the political editor at Business Day and group executive editor at Independent Group. She launched Forbes Women Africa magazine and has hosted Political Exchange and Beyond Markets on CNBC Africa. With regards to media work, Ms. Brown was a sought-after facilitator and commentator for corporates and other organizations trying to make sense of big issues facing the country. She was the host of the Karima Brown Show on 702 Talk Radio, a hard-hitting politics show which brought big names and newsmakers into the discussion. She was the host of The Fix on ENCA, a no-holds-barred current affairs show which saw her and her panel of guests discuss major news events, examine key issues, and debate the way forward. The ANC conveys its heartfelt condolences to her family, friends, and colleagues. Thank you, Deputy Speaker.
Thank you, honorable member. That concludes member statements. Are there any ministerial responses? We do expect it. Any ministerial responses? No, this is, sorry? Any minister in the House?
Deputy Speaker, yes, Mr. Speaker, Deputy Speaker. Dr. Mkize.
Okay, go ahead, Dr. Mkize, and then you will follow. I can't see who's that. Despite appearances, I don't see far.
Thank you very much. Honorable Deputy Speaker, indeed, we have passed a year since the first case of COVID-19 was detected. Last Friday, I spent the day amongst healthcare workers as they were getting vaccinated, as they were reflecting on their extraordinary year in their careers. We had heartwarming stories of appreciation by ordinary South Africans for the sterling work that has been done in the healthcare system as a collective and by healthcare workers who have soldiered the front line of the battle against COVID-19. We too pay tribute to all those who lost the battle due to COVID-19. I thank my colleagues for commending government's effort of containing and preventing onward spread of COVID-19. This has been possible because of the president who has led from the front and the National Coronavirus Command Council that has built relationship with stakeholders by ensuring that there is regular engagement across all sectors. Our vaccination rollout is progressing satisfactorily with now over 107,000 healthcare workers vaccinated. We continue to expand the vaccination centers and will soon be in a position to begin enrolling to all frontline workers. That will happen in April. We look forward to other details, announcing details to the public in a timely manner. The efficiency of the EVDS system continues to be refined, and this has allowed a high rate of vaccination with relatively few centers. This is encouraging for us as we seek to accelerate our path towards population immunity. We have noticed also the concern about the manipulation of the queues, where some of the family members of general practitioners have presented themselves as health workers. We've sent a strong message that this kind of behavior needs to be stopped. We also want to just confirm as well that the vaccination, those who have been vaccinated through the J&J vaccine are now done. They won't need to have another vaccination. And therefore, this, whilst we do an implementation study, but it is in fact a real vaccination program in place. And so members need to understand that those that would have gone through this process are now vaccinated, and the ones that will be done through the Pfizer vaccine will also have a second dose. So the observation studies will continue just to make sure we learn a bit more about this process of vaccination of a large number of people. This will help us in the future. I therefore want to take the opportunity to join my colleagues in pleading with citizens to adhere to health protocols, especially as we approach the Easter holidays. The possibility of the next wave remain a reality, and it is up to us, our own behavior, that will help us to avoid a surge of the nature that we've just recently seen. Thank you very much, Honorable House Deputy Chairperson. Thank you.
Thank you, Dad. Hello, next minister, please go ahead.
Thank you very much, Deputy Speaker. I'm not sorry, Marco. You can see me now.
Nice.
Thank you very much. On the question raised by Honorable Madlingozi, I just wanted to confirm that, you know, creative industry has been hit hard by the COVID-19 pandemic, and a lot of artists are struggling. And therefore, on the two issues that he has raised, one, the issue of the corruption in the SAMRO, where SAMRO is paying royalties to artists, whilst artists are our responsibility, but unfortunately the issue of the royalties is with the Department of Trade and Industry, some of them, and the others are with the Communication and Digital. But what we have done as the Department of Sports, Arts and Culture is to actually engage the two departments and have a team that deals with these issues, because when artists are dealing with these issues, they don't look at the other two departments. They look at the department that is supposed to be looking after them, which is us. And everybody else would also be looking at us because they know that artists fall under sports, arts and culture. So that's the issue that we are dealing with at the moment, and I'm hoping that it will be resolved. Honorable Madlingozi was at SAMRO with some of the artists on the day that they had trained themselves, and there was an interaction with the artists on that issue, not with us, but the departments concerned. So I'm hoping that that issue will be resolved, but I'm saying it's something that we are also looking very closely into as the department. The second part about the National Arts Council, which has been appointed by the department as the implementing agency for the Presidential Employment Stimulus Package. which has been given an amount of 300 million to actually look at the creative industry and see how they can make sure that the creative industry sustain the jobs that are there and also create the jobs. It's a process that is going on. Today, the portfolio committee has discussed this issue, and we had provided some answers, even though they were not adequate. And that discussion is continuing. And we are hoping that what the portfolio committee has also proposed, that they will be doing an oversight on the National Arts Council to further discuss the issue further and make sure that the artists are the ultimate beneficiaries for this amount that the presidency has put up. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Next, ministerial response. I saw Honorable Skwacha. Are you there? Please come in.
Honorable Speaker, Deputy Minister Mashiko Dlamini.
Go ahead, Deputy Minister.
Thank you very much, Honorable Deputy Speaker. On the issue that has been raised by Honorable Ngola, yes, of course, the ACFTA is one of the flagship projects of the African Union Agenda 2063, aimed to build an integrated market in Africa that will see a more integrated market of over 1 billion people with a combined GDP of approximately 3.3 trillion US dollars. It is also aimed at boosting intra-Africa trade that currently stand at approximately 16%, with Africa's shares of world trade estimated to be at only 3%. This achievement, Honorable Deputy Speaker, would not have been possible without considerable effort of the part of government, including the stewardship of Minister Ibrahim Patel and his team at the Department of Trade, Industry and Competition, who chairs the African Continental Free Trade Agreement negotiation process and displayed determination and perseverance to ensure that during the 13th Extraordinary Summit of the African Continental Free Trade Agreement, which was hosted on the 5th of December 2020, we saw a historic adoption of the Johannesburg Declaration and on the trade under the AFCFTA with effect from the 1st of January. 54 countries have signed and have ratified the agreement. So we are looking forward for the remaining countries that our President Cyril Ramaphosa has requested them to really quickly join the trend. Thank you very much, Deputy Speaker.
Thank you very much. Next, ministerial response.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. Deputy Minister Skwacha here.
Go ahead, Ndati.
Thank you very much. On the issue or statement about District 6, the department proudly welcomes the statement, and we would want to say that the issue of District 6 is an issue that we are seized with. 108 units are due for completion by end of April as part of phase 3. The remaining 954 houses will be completed by 2024. We would remember that 2,760 claims were launched before 1998, and claimants, others opted for monetization so that their dignity can be restored. We would want to say that claimants will be moving in by June 2021. This, Speaker, we are doing it to restore the dignity of the people of District 6. June 26 seems to be a very significant date in the calendar of South Africa, both in relation to the way the people of District 6 were treated, but also to the many, many issues that happened, and especially the adoption of the Freedom Charter, whose DNA would find in the Constitution of the New South Africa. We want to say what we are doing are building blocks to the creation of a non-racial, non-sexist, peaceful, prosperous South Africa. And we want lastly to say, as our founding president said, never never and never again shall it be that the race of a human being plays a critical role in the South Africa. All shall be equal before the law. I thank you.
Speaker.
What is happening now?
Angazmo, I think the Deputy Speaker is muted.
Oh, okay.
Bengilindile nje ukuthi ube uhleli ngobuza lo mbuzo.
I'm a whip windows. I must ask on behalf of my caucus.
I was also wondering ukuthi kwenzekani. I thought kuhlengiwe lo sabotage.
Let me take over and share the session, comrades. The next one is IFP.
No. Come on, EFF, keep quiet.
I would thought, Minister Squatcher, why are you not answering on the DA question?
Maybe I love the DA.
I think you do.
I'm reciprocating your love for me. Tifleta ne-DA yawubona kwenzeka ntoni?
Akafentanga uDeputy Speaker.
Ndivale nto ukuba xa uba niyasondelelana mpela.
Yawuyothuka sayilapha kwibhethis the ANC.
Check the Deputy Speaker, maybe he has collapsed.
No, there's nothing wrong, alone.
Perhaps administration
Check
needs...
whether the Deputy Speaker has not collapsed there.
No. Perhaps we need to know.
He has resigned from ANC.
No, this is sabotage.
No, you are right, Honorable Singh. We are communicating with their house, so they are trying to connect again. It's Mahlangu.
Thank you, Mr. Mahlangu. No, thank you for at least the table letting us know. Otherwise, we are in 6s and 7s.
Okay, no, we are communicating with the people in the house.
Can we apply the rule in the meantime, Mr. Mahlangu? What needs to happen? Can we elect the chair in the meantime?
Please. Bye-bye.
Ndithe ndibona
Funding,
Comrade Pam Chwete, mute.
Hello, who's calling me? Services Squatcher?
Mute.
No. Are you calling? Did you tell? That's fine.
No, we're hearing your private conversation.
No, not unless my gadget is not working. Otherwise, I'm the mute. I'm mute and go now. And manager.
No, we had news about Sunday we're not supposed to hear.
No, I don't know about second because not mute up a gadgeting. I don't know.
The house is continuing, comrades. So it's only that
now we know where will you be on Sunday.
Bye.
It is my understanding that the Zoom has crashed. They're trying to work it out.
Yeah, and the house is continuing.
Thengiwe icontinue kanjani thina singakhona ukubesa.
Kusho ukuthi we are no longer members in Nhlanhlo.
No, the FF has
let's all go back to Parliament. Let's all go back to Parliament. That's the only solution.
Makhelwane wena uwenza makhelwane.
Members, I got a message from the House that there's a 4-minute comfort break.
Ithi nalek bilaterally in the EFF apha kule platform. Nenzani lama
na wena nqaba ukwazi ukuthi usikhiphe emsebenzini bese usishiya ngaphandle bese usitshela nge4 minutes break.
They are trying to sort out the connection between the House and the virtual platform. Yes, and once they have sorted out that, they will call you back.
Why do you want to blame the ANC, Spa?
Okay, thank you.
That's why the sabotage.
Mr. Mahlangu, are you suggesting that the House is adjourning or?
No, it's not adjourning. There is a 4-minute comfort break to try and sort out the issue of connection. Yes.
Oh, they are not continuing.
No, they are not continuing in there. The House is not continuing.
Okay.
Yeah, they will call it back once it's sorted out.
Mr. Mahlangu, the idea is for members to remain on the line until the 4 minutes has expired.
No, we're connected to the main house now. We can.
From what time does the 4 minutes start?
We've had many minutes gone by now.
No.
You will be told.
I will check online session, right? Are there any ministerial responses?
Now there's a picture now from the House for anytime now. Yeah.
Oh, there is an adjournment.
Jeni utheni bengasicela nje thina besishiya silengalenga. Hayi uDeputy Speaker bengathi uqhubha branch meeting naye.
You'll be removed.
I'll share namhlanje.
Jani kodwa ke branch nayibo.
Hayibo.
We
as
branches. Jani ke go ibranch yami noba ngubani ke ngoba ngihlele esibhakabhakeni.
Jonga une VD wena.
Awuyandilonda ngoku.
Coordinate.
Ubisel. Unesel. Also.
Honorable members, please settle down. Honorable members, take your seats. We invited you in the interest of your health and safety to not be all over the place and be in your designated seat and keep your mask on. Honorable members, I invited Honorable Janji. I hope he can.
We can hear you now. We can hear you now, Deputy Speaker.
Oh, there he is. Honorable Janji.
Honorable Deputy Speaker, members of the National Assembly, the Portfolio Committee on Justice and Correctional Services, having considered the Correctional Services Amendment Bill, reports the bill without amendments. The committee further reports as follows. On May 2019.
Okay. If the honorable member has difficulties, as it appears he has, we'll ask someone in the House to replace him. I'm informed that that's Honorable Mola. Please go ahead, Nat.
Thank you very much, Deputy Speaker. Members of the House, good afternoon all. The Portfolio Committee on Justice and Correctional Services, having considered the Correctional Services Amendment Bill, B32/2020, reports the bill without amendments. The committee further reports as follows. On the 3rd of May 2019, in the matter between Pasha versus the Minister of Correctional Services and another, known as Pasha judgment, the Constitutional Court confirmed the decision of the High Court of South Africa, Gauteng Division, Pretoria, which declared invalid Section 136, subsection 1 of the Correctional Services Act 111 of 1998 on the grounds that the impacting provision is the constitutional rights for equal treatment by the law and not to be discriminated against unfairly. The Constitutional Court suspended the declaration of constitutional for 24 months to afford Parliament an opportunity to enact remedial legislation that is before 3rd May 2021. The Constitutional Court provided read-in provision pending the amendment of the legislation by Parliament, which will apply during the 24 months of the suspension of the order of constitutional invalidity. The read-in provision is as follows. Any person serving a sentence of incarceration for an offense committed before the commencement of Chapter 4, 6, and 7 of the Correctional Services Act is subject to the provision of the Correctional Services Act 8 of 1959, relating to his or her placement under community corrections. The Correctional Supervision and Parole Board in terms of the policy and guidelines applied by the former Parole Board prior to the commencement of those chapters, close quote. On 18 October 2020, the Correctional Services Amendment Bill 2020 was introduced and referred to the Portfolio Committee on Justice and Correctional Services for consideration and report. The committee was briefed by the Department of Correctional Services on the contents of the bill on the 3rd of November 2020. The bill seeks to amend the Correctional Services Act 111 of 1998 in order to align it with the Constitution and the partial judgment with regard to the placement of a sentenced offender under day parole and correctional supervision, and to provide for minimum periods to be served before becoming eligible for consideration for such release and placement in terms of parole regime applicable at the date of commission of an offense. The bill was advertised for public comment and received 2 written submissions from Mr. M.G. Buthelezi and the Helen Suzman Foundation. On 2nd February 2021, the Helen Suzman Foundation made an oral submission on the virtual platform, which addressed, among others, the need for further clarity regarding the applicable parole regime in the case of multiple and continuing offenses. The report was adopted by the Portfolio Committee, and we request that the National Assembly approve it. I thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Member. Honorable members, I recognize political parties that wishes to make a declaration. And as you know, the allocation of time in this instance will apply. The DA?
Mr. Deputy Speaker, this bill is as a result of the Constitutional Court judgment in Pachla versus Minister of Justice and Correctional Services, in which the applicant challenged the minimum period for a lifer must serve before becoming eligible for consideration for parole. There are actually 3 different parole regimes in operation in correctional services that apply to life sentences. If the old Prisons Act of 1959...
I don't know whether it's Honorable Self. We can't hear you. I don't know whether it's you and your mic or it's Zoom going crazy again.
I'll try again. Is that better, Chair, Deputy Speaker?
Honorable Self, we can't hear you.
Deputy Speaker, we can hear him clearly, Deputy Speaker.
Ahmed Mansour. Shake him up.
Deputy Speaker, we could hear him clearly, absolutely clear.
Honorable Self, try again, connect.
I
cannot mute you if it's not Zoom.
Deputy Speaker, I've just been informed that it's Parliament that can't hear him. Apparently on Zoom, you can hear him, but it's Parliament that can't hear. So I'm afraid we're going to have to maybe ask for IT to reboot for Parliament, because on the Zoom platform they hear him, we just don't hear him here. Because I've got people, my whips online letting me know, Mr.
Yeah.
It's my job.
Can you sort, can the IT people sort it out, please?
Honorable Chair, Honorable Deputy Speaker, is it not possible to request colleague that side, the chief whip of the opposition party, to request someone else to take this declaration, please? I'm doing this thing very formal. Just hold your horses. I'm speaking through the Deputy Speaker.
Please, honorable members, okay. Yes, the rules. Yes, honorable member.
Thank you very much, Deputy Speaker. It has always been the norm that the work on duty that takes over, we are doing that in questions. Why we can't do it now so that the House can proceed with its work? It have always done that, unless that the member is going to speak here, things that the chief whip of his party don't even know about.
No.
So then it's a problem.
Honorable
matters.
members, Hook high. That's the rules. We just used it now. Mola, yes. Honorable Mola spoke here. So it's not, if it happens, it won't be anything strange here.
Yeah.
Yes.
Deputy, if I may ask just for 2 minutes, as you can see, the Honourable Self is busy organising that he sends it through to me and I will read it on his behalf. If you just give me 2 minutes. Thank you. And thank you, Natasha, for your politeness.
Don't understand.
There's peace between the two Natashas.
Deputy, that's Natasha. I'm Tasha. There can only be one.
Tasha. Okay. I give up. I never win with name on this call.
Honorable Deputy Speaker, in fact, I like to be called Alake and not Natasha. She can have Natasha. It's a European name anyway. I like to be going forward to be
We
changed
will
to
need
Alake.
Honorable Butsaledi from Home Affairs to mediate. No. That's the end of it, honorable members. Are you ready, honorable? Okay, go ahead. Yeah. I thought you were taking the debate forward.
No.
In the absence of Butsaledi, I won't allow it. Go ahead, honorable member.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. So Tasha will read on behalf of Honourable James Self. This bill is as a result of a Constitutional Court judgment, Lala versus the Minister of Justice and Correctional Services, in which the applicant challenged the minimum period a lifer must serve before becoming eligible for consideration for parole. There are 3 different parole regimes in operation in correctional services that apply to life sentences. If the Prisons Act applied, if the old Prisons Act applied to you, you would have to serve a minimum of 10 years and not more than 50. In March 1994, the minimum period was increased to 20 years, and in October 2004 to 25 years. Up until now, eligibility for minimum periods of parole could only be considered if they had been determined by the date of sentencing. The Constitutional Court, relying on the maxim that a person should benefit from the least harsh penalty, found that the parole period ought to be determined by the date of the commission of the offence. The court directed Parliament to amend the Act to reflect this. This bill does just that. We will be supporting the bill. But let me reflect on life sentences. In excess of 18,000 inmates are serving life sentences in our prisons at the moment. People who committed crimes for which a life sentence is a mandatory after the 1st of October 2004 must serve a minimum of 25 years before becoming eligible for parole. When he was the head of the Judicial Introspective for Correctional Services, Justice Johan van der Westhuizen wrote the life sentences. The issue is well known and has been debated constantly since the promulgation of the 25-year cap. JICS is of the view that it is inhumane conditions are inevitable if the status quo is not seriously reconsidered. In addition, there are a variety of crimes that carry a mandatory minimum sentence. Together, they are a powerful driver of prison overcrowding. They literally clog up the system. But they also deprive judicial officers of the discretion to make punishment to fit the crime. These are very complex matters. They are very emotive matters. But Parliament needs to have an honest conversation about minimum sentences and minimum periods before parole can be granted. Failure to have this conversation will mean that we will not be able to grapple with the problem of overcrowding and the ability to rehabilitate offenders properly. I thank you.
EFF.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. My name is Honorable Yako, not the EFF. Second reading, Chairperson, the EFF supports the broad principles of the Correctional Services Amendment Bill. We are the view that the amendment deals accurately with the ruling of the Constitutional Court on the Phahla judgment, from which this amendment bill emanates. The main issues in the Phahla judgment were the inconsistencies in the parole system and the prejudicial manner in which inmates who were sentenced after the commencement of Chapter 4, 6, and 7 of the Act were treated compared to those sentenced before these chapters became operational. The Act stipulated that inmates who were sentenced after the commencement of the Act, which was on the 1st of October 2004, would only be eligible for parole after serving a period of 25 years in jail. This introduced a new parole regime from October 2004, because before that, inmates would qualify for parole after serving 20 years of imprisonment. This anomaly then meant that one was convicted before the 1st of October 2004, but sentenced after the date, that person will be required to serve 25 years before qualifying for parole, as it happened to Phahla. These amendments now make it clear that inmates must serve 25 years before they can be considered for parole if the offense was committed after coming into operation chapters 4, 6, and 7 of the Correctional Services Act on October 1st, 2004. We support these amendments because they eliminate inconsistencies in law. However, this act system. This bill does not deal with the process of how going process for prison reforms. This must entail a very clear process for the granting of paroles for all those who qualify, while ensuring that there are effective rehabilitation services. We do not need to make these amendments in a piecemeal basis. We all know that these are reforms needed in the correctional services space. We now know that the Constitutional Court made yet another ruling in December last year and ordered Parliament to make other amendments relating to the independence of the Judicial Inspectorate of Correctional Services. Aside from these concerns, we are in support of the bill. Thank you.
Thank you. IFP.
Thank you, Honorable Deputy Speaker. The IFP welcomes the introduction of the Correctional Services Amendment Bill, as well as the swift approach taken by this House to...
Prof, asikuzwa nakancane. Is there someone in the House who can do it on his behalf from the IFP?
Deputy Speaker, I don't know if you can hear me, but we have nobody in the House.
Honorable Singh, I see you trying to intervene there.
Yes, I don't know if you can hear me, but we have nobody in the House. So perhaps...
Deputy Speaker.
Unfortunately, we don't hear them. Let me move to those who are here now. In the meantime, they'll come back if they are able to reconnect. FF Plus.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker.
Deputy Speaker, can you hear us?
Fly to the chamber.
Deputy Speaker, can you hear us?
in the House have done, outrage about crimes that have been committed by people on parole. One thinks last year of the murders of 12-year-old Michaela Williams, 8-year-old Tasnie van Wyk, and the murder of 7-year-old Regan Gertzer by people who are being charged and who were on parole at the time. Whilst most parolees integrate peacefully into society, there have been a number of cases where they have not only offended, but the crimes they've committed on parole were more serious than those for which they had been jailed, as is in the case of these instances which I indicated. And this is tragic, and it's clearly something that must concern all of us. In addition, the department reported as of 12 October 2020, 12,000, in this case, low-risk offenders were released following the COVID-19 special parole dispensation. Now, with the focus on curbing gender-based violence and indeed other crimes, the committee did raise concerns at the rate of recidivism amongst parolees, not in this report, but in another report, with 75 of those parolees being rearrested for committing new crimes, mostly housebreaking and theft.
Yes, I'm also virtual. And I don't have a copy of it either, but I'm not in the house.
Community corrections to monitor those entrusted to their care, the parolees. And Justice Minister Lamola has undertook to address the flaws in the parole system. It is clearly in need of review, including better integration of systems so that previous criminal records can be instantly accessed when a suspect is being processed. The outrage against gender-based violence has also resulted in the committee looking to tighten up further legislation, such as relating to bail, parole, and minimum sentences, and those bills we are busy dealing with and will come to the House. Lastly, Deputy Speaker, I'm sure that you'll be pleased that Parliament is to pass this bill before the Constitutional Court deadline in May.
There's a connection problem clearly here. And
Deputy Speaker, can you hear us?
And good.
Deputy Speaker, can you hear us?
Speaker, I know I don't think it's ever been done before, but I am the chief whip of the opposition. So if any of the parties would like to send their declaration to me, I'm very happy to read it. No, I mean, it's true. I'm very happy to read it on their behalf because I am the whip of the opposition. So if they want to, please, I offer my services.
We've got a problem. None of us on the Zoom.
The problem is I don't know whether they are hearing you in the first place because of the connection. I'm sure they would, I can't claim I'm sure. I don't know what they would say to your offer. Yes. Okay. Good was also
Honorable Deputy Speaker.
Yes, sir.
Is the Honorable
No, oh, sorry. No, it's not. They're doing the declaration on that one.
Deputy Speaker, you can tell I didn't think that one through completely.
No, you didn't think it at all.
But in the spirit of being a family, even that.
Thank you for clarifying things for us, Dr. Mulder. NFP, is there anybody in the house? No. AIC, I know he's not
in the house.
Cope.
Thank you, Honorable Deputy Speaker. I suppose you don't mind if I speak from here.
No, not at all. You can do that. Just keep your time. You don't have a clock there. I have it here. That's the only disadvantage you have. Okay, go ahead.
Having gone through the report of the Portfolio Committee and having listened to a united agreement from the various parties which sit in the committee, the Portfolio Committee itself, COPE rises to agree with them and say, let's support the bill. Thank you.
Okay. Now, in the list, there is the PAC and Al Jamaa, and they would have had to speak from the virtual platform, which is currently disabled. So we'll keep them. ANC?
Thank you very much, Deputy Speaker. We will be delivering this on behalf of the Honorable Velma Nevote Jachen. The African National Congress rises in support of the Correctional Services Amendment Bill 32 of 2020 and the report of Portfolio Committee on Justice and Correctional Services on the Correctional Services Amendment Bill. As we commemorate Human Rights Month, we reflect on the words of former President Nelson Mandela when he said, "It is said that no one truly knows a nation until one has been inside its jails. A nation should not be judged by how it treats its highest citizens, but its lowest citizens." Speaker, under the Correctional Services Act of 1959, Deputy Speaker,
thank you, sir.
Anyone sentenced to life imprisonment was eligible to apply for parole after serving a minimum of 20 years. In terms of the 1998 Act, however, someone serving a life sentence is eligible for parole only once they have served a minimum of 25 years. Section 136, subsection 1 of the 1998 Act governs the transition from the parole eligibility requirements under the 1959 Act to those under the 1998 Act. Section 136, subsection 1 provides that inmates sentenced before 1 October 2004 are subject to the 1959 Act and must serve a minimum of 20 years. But inmates sentenced after 1 October 2004 are subject to the 1998 Act and must therefore serve a minimum of 25 years. In the matter of Partha versus the Minister of Justice and Correctional Services and another, the applicant, Mr. Partha, is an inmate serving a sentence of life imprisonment. He was convicted on 25 September 2004 for a crime committed earlier, but was sentenced only on 5 October 2004. This means that he is required to serve 25 years before he may apply for parole. Had Mr. Partha been sentenced a few days earlier, he would have had to serve only 20 years before being eligible for parole. Mr. Partha challenged Section 136, subsection 1 in the High Court on the grounds that the use of the date of sentence rather than the date of commission of offense violated his fair trial right under Section 35 3N of the Constitution. Section 35, subsection 3, paragraph N of the Constitution provides that where the prescribed punishment for an offense has changed between the time of the offense was committed and the time of sentencing, an accused person has the right to the benefit of the least severe of the prescribed punishments. Mr. Partha also argued that Section 136, subsection 1 breaches his right to equal protection of the law and the right not to be unfairly discriminated against in terms of Section 9 of the Constitution. In a judgment penned by Jojo AJ, the Constitutional Court unanimously confirmed the High Court's declaration of invalidity. The majority held the impertinent provisions invalid and on the grounds that the use of date of sentence in Section 136, subsection 1, rather the date of commission of offense, breaches the constitutional right to equal protection of the law and also the right to benefit of the least severe punishment. The majority held that it amounts to retroactive application of the law, which violates Section 35, subsection 3, paragraph N, and the principle of legality. The Constitutional Court suspended the declaration of constitutional invalidity for 24 months to afford Parliament an opportunity to enact remedial legislation. That is before 3 May 2021. The Constitutional Court provided a read-in provision pending the amendment of the legislation by Parliament, which will apply during the 24 months of the suspension of the order of constitutional invalidity. In October 2020, the Correctional Services Amendment Bill was introduced and referred to the Portfolio Committee on Justice and Correctional Services for consideration and report. The bill seeks to amend the Correctional Services Act 111 of 1998 in order to align it with the Constitution and the Partha judgment with regard to the placement of a sentenced offender under day parole and correctional supervision, and to provide for minimum periods to be served before becoming eligible for consideration for such a release and placement in terms of parole regime applicable at the date of commission of the offense. The bill upholds the constitutional rights to equal treatment by law and not to not to be discriminated against unfairly. The ANC supports the bill and the report. I thank you.
Honorable members, before I put the bill to you, I just want to confirm that what Honorable said about this being good news refers to the relationship between ourselves as Parliament and the judiciary. That because they understand that they are not lawmakers, we are, they defer to us, giving us this period of time in which to do the work in their own estimation of how long it would take and so on. So this is an important matter which each committee should reflect on it as we proceed. Decisions have been made in the programming committee that we should make sure that as decisions of the courts are made, we must immediately put in place a process to receive comments by the executive. And if they don't meet the deadline, the committees of Parliament should take over in order to meet the deadline. It's an important relationship matter between the two arms of the state. And I thought I should make that comment so that you take it up in your committees to process it properly, immediately, don't wait. Think about the processes that should be underway so that by all means, all the time, we meet the requirements. Whatever complexities exist, we must be able to ensure that we meet the deadlines and we can discuss with whoever has to deal with these matters in time, all the time. Now, honorable members, are there any objections to the bill?
Deputy Speaker, colleagues on the virtual platform, I think you can hear me.
The bill will be sent to the National Council
that Parliament adjourns, because this is rather unusual that 200 members cannot participate.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Parliament.
Yeah,
Messages to Chief
the
Whips
secretary will read the bill a second
I don't know what's happening. I just wanted you to know that.
fatally missed.
Correctional Services Amendment Bill.
The
Deputy
bill
Speaker, can you hear us?
will be sent to the National Council of Provinces for concurrence. Now we are procedurally appropriate. You'd be happy to know. Honorable
Deputy Speaker.
I'm looking for replacement. Motions without notice. We now come.
Unless
Honorable
can watch him.
Taking, Mom, I don't think the House can hear us.
No, they can't. They can't hear us. Now, so it can't be procedurally correct if over 200 members can't participate. I mean, you know.
I've just informed our whips, our party whips that are in the House that we can't hear.
Many of
sorry.
I've got a message that they're attending to it at the moment from the IT and things.
Oh yeah. I want to understand, Chief Whip. I didn't hear you properly. Oh, okay. Okay. Okay, I understand. Yeah.
Deputy Speaker, can you hear us? Still can't hear.
Discussion that
no, that one is where we coordinate ourselves as chief whips of parties.
Yes.
I've received a lot of messages,
Yes.
same with Honorable Mazoni, where other chief whips are requesting that we suspend the proceedings because they are excluded, not out of their own making, but because of technology, they are unable to participate. So there is that request that I'm putting to you.
Can I request? It's a difficult one. Firstly, it has consequences for when we want to do that. I can only do that. This is awkward. Can I consult on that? But members, let's understand we have gone through the procedure. We have approved this. But I do wish to indicate that in case there's any reason for us to come back, we will come back to you, having considered what you have requested to us. Okay, yeah, thank you very much. I thought I should make that clear so that we don't have problems. Honorable members, I suggest that we proceed with the business of the House, and you can be consulting, and we will be advised what are the possibilities. If there's a possibility of IT completing the work quickly enough, we may be able to take a brief second and retrace our steps for those 3 or so declarations, and then we'll proceed and then retrace our steps backwards. But that's the consultation that is taking place. They are just checking the technicalities and so on. Honorable Mulder, you wanted to say something else?
Yes, Honorable Speaker, no, I understand what you're saying.
Yes.
If we can succeed in getting the technology going, that's fine.
Yeah.
The problem is the only outstanding issues for today are the motions without notice and notices of motion.
Yes.
The problem is that a number of members who are going to participate in that are on the virtual platform. They will not be able to participate.
Yes.
So if we could adjourn, perhaps we could deal with those things tomorrow after questions. It's just a suggestion. Thank you.
Okay, now I see what, including even with the notices and so on. Most of them are out there. Okay.
Yes, we could add them. Can you hear us?
Now that I've heard you, I will still consult. And then I'll notify you what the decision of the chair is. Agreed? Agreed. I'm the democratic, that you can be sure. Yes, me, myself, and I, now that I'm challenged. The secretary advises me there's the chief whip of the majority party has a story to tell us.
Thank you very much, Honorable Deputy Speaker. Honorable Deputy Speaker, we have consulted with other chief whips.
No, but that is a lie. No, that is a lie. I'm
Honorable Natasha. Honorable Natasha. Honorable Natasha.
Of the majority party only took out.
No, Honorable Natasha.
Natasha Kazoni can't run the house on their own.
Honorable Natasha.
It's wrong. I'm the whip on duty. You haven't called me, ma'am.
Honorable.
The chief whip of the EFF is not.
Honorable.
I'm the whip on duty here. Don't undermine me like that.
Honorable Natasha.
Deputy Speaker, point of order.
No, wait a minute.
Okay.
Can you allow me to rule on matters before the House before you interrupt me, please? Honorable Natasha, I just said so earlier on, warning members here that you can't say anybody lies. I request you to withdraw because that's unparliamentary and out of order.
I withdraw lying, but don't.
Don't make it conditional. I don't accept it if it is conditional.
I withdraw, but
yes.
You haven't called me.
No. That's a separate matter. You must make it unconditional. You know, there is better order. And I'm 18 fingers.
Deputy Speaker.
Honorable members, Honorable Chief Whip, there is a problem.
No, and that is not a problem, Honorable Deputy Speaker. I said earlier on, other chief whips that are not here in the House have made a request that we must consider adjournment.
Yes.
And they keep on speaking to me, and I had to.
We can't even hear what she's saying now.
Yeah.
This network issue is really messing us up, eh? Or technical glitch, whatever you call it.
Break in transmission.
You must go to the house.
Ngesixhosa thina siselantshwentshwe ngoku asiva nto.
You must go to the
Honorable
house.
members,
House.
Honorable members, let's put this to the House. Honorable members, here's a proposal for how to manage what's happening. In the previous, instance, because of technology, other norm and Kanjalanis Elbleni. Honorable members, Kanjala still blares a brief man. You don't say that. Who's that? Who's that? Honorable members, stand up and voluntarily withdraw that. You don't speak like that about human beings. Please, please.
I withdraw. I did not understand what it means.
Thank you very much. No. Honorable member, you don't do things conditional. You must just withdraw unconditionally, please.
I withdraw unconditionally.
Thank you very much. Yeah. Honorable members, I put to you a request that we do not repeat what we did earlier on.
I can't hear again. I don't know.
Because of technology, that the same would happen if we proceed with the others. So let's do this, reschedule, so that the remaining parts, including the previous one we've just agreed on, we must, sorry? Yeah, okay. All right. No. Okay. Now the procedural chief here says no. The first one we have passed through, it's agreed to, and the only remaining exclusions would be on the following. Do you agree that we adjourn the House? Any opposition?
Yes. No, agreed.
2D?
Chair,
House
sorry, Deputy Speaker, we don't have a problem. It's the right thing to do.
Yes.
But the chief whip of the majority party and the
Honorable member.
I don't think they control us.
Okay.
They don't control us.
Okay. Honorable.
So for the sake of moving forward, it's fine. It's the right thing to do.
All right. Honorable Natasha, please join their chat group.
Chairperson.
Please. Honorable
Deputy Speaker.
She doesn't qualify, Deputy Speaker.
Could I perhaps amend the proposal by the Honourable Chief Whip? I suggest that the House adjourns, but the EFF can stay behind.
Not accepted. The House will adjourn. Honourable members, thank you very much to inform the House how we deal with things better. Thank you very much, honourable members.
Long live the chair. Long live the chair.
Long live the chair.
Long live
the chair.
Desiree van der Wald has left the meeting. Mute. Alert Wilma Nuhout Droshan.